Johnny Rourke lived as if he was going against the current of his life. His free spirit and constant striving for independence made him an outsider in the small school world. He was the kind of guy who played by his own rules and didn't give in to pressure from others. Most people only saw him as a rebel who would deliberately get into trouble. However, behind his cold gaze and cynical smile hid a deep inner world. Johnny was partial to art and music. He liked to create melodies that, as he said himself, said what words could not express. It was his way of dealing with loneliness and a way to show himself that the world around him still made sense. Tracy Prescott lived a very different life. She was adored by those around her. She was considered the epitome of success and beauty. She shined at every high school party, took the honorary spot on the cheerleading squad and dated Randy Daniels, the best player on the soccer team. But if one were to look into her soul, they would see a girl tired of the constant pressure. Her perfect life was actually a chain of obligations that forced her to follow other people's expectations, forgetting her own desires. Her laughing smiles and successes were half a mask that hid a growing emptiness. The school pageant was the accident that changed everything. According to the rules of the event, the pairs of contestants were determined by drawing lots. When it was announced that Johnny and Tracy would be performing together, the audience gasped in surprise. No one could imagine that such different people would end up in the same team. Tracy was confused at first, and her friends and Randy openly mocked the situation. Johnny, on the contrary, took it sarcastically, deciding it would be interesting to see how the high school star would try to interact with him. Their first meeting to discuss the performance plan was tense. Tracy tried to be polite, but her voice sounded dry and her phrases were thought out to the last word. Johnny, on the other hand, was calm and a little mocking. He allowed himself some light teasing that seemed to piss her off on purpose. He understood that Tracy felt uncomfortable around him, and found it amusing. Gradually, however, he began to see that there was something more behind her strained smile. The first rehearsals were awkward. Tracy suggested standard ideas that were in keeping with the spirit of the contest, but Johnny absolutely refused to follow the templates. He wanted to do something different, something that would reflect their uniqueness as a couple. His stubbornness irritated Tracy, but at the same time made her curious. She began to see him not just as a rebel, but as a man who really lived his life without looking at the opinions of others. One day after another rehearsal, Johnny unexpectedly offered to show her his favorite place. It was on the outskirts of town, where a small lake was surrounded by tall trees. The night was clear and the moonlight reflected in the water, creating an atmosphere of tranquility. Johnny had told her that he often came here to calm his thoughts and reflect on life. Tracy felt that it was the first time she had seen him for real. That evening they talked frankly, without pretense or masks. Johnny talked about his family, how he had always felt like an outsider even amongst the people closest to him. Tracy, in turn, admitted that she was afraid of disappointing her parents and friends if she suddenly showed them who she really was. This conversation was an important moment for them that opened the door to something more than just friendship. Their bond grew stronger and stronger. Tracy began to realize that Johnny understood her in a way that no one else did. He didn't judge her or demand that she be someone else. She could be herself with him. But their relationship didn't go unnoticed. Randy quickly began to notice that Tracy no longer paid as much attention to him as she used to. His jealousy and anger grew. He tried to talk to her several times, but his approach was too aggressive. He didn't realize that her feelings were starting to change and thought that things could be fixed by simply demanding that she come back. One of the most intense scenes took place in the locker room of the soccer team. Randy confronted Johnny face to face and demanded that he leave Tracy alone. Johnny, being calm and confident, refused to give in to the provocation. He stated that feelings could not be made to disappear and that Tracy should decide for herself what she wanted. These words made Randy even angrier, but he realized that a physical fight would not solve the problem. The conflict reached its peak at the school party. It was one of those events where all the students gathered to relax and have fun. However, the atmosphere was tense. When Randy noticed Johnny and Tracy talking, he walked up to them and made a scene in front of everyone. He accused Johnny of ruining their relationship and demanded an explanation from Tracy. Tracy was shocked by Randy's behavior. She realized that she could no longer continue to live by someone else's rules. At that moment, she made a choice. She walked over to Johnny and took his hand, showing him that she was choosing him. They left the party, leaving behind the noise, judgmental looks, and expectations. Johnny put her on his motorcycle and they headed out into the night. The road wind and stars overhead became a symbol of their freedom. They knew that there would be difficulties ahead, that their relationship would cause judgment, but they were ready to fight for their happiness. The final scenes of the movie show how Johnny and Tracy find comfort in each other. Their love becomes an escape for them from loneliness and the pressures of society. They realize that together they are stronger than separately and that their feelings give them the strength to face the world. Their story is not just a teenage romance, but a story about the courage to be yourself and the importance of finding someone who sees you for who you really are.